Greetings everyone, I'm the delicious and mythical GriffinMuffin. So, being the observant human being that you are, you might be able to guess that I'm really into medieval fantasy, like a lot. If I were to trace this innocent obsession of mine back to its epicenter, its ground zero, I would trace it back to playing games like Warcraft 2 and Ultima 7. But Warcraft 2 has a special place in my heart. It was one of the first games I ever actually completed as a kid. It instilled in me my love for strategy games and introduced me to the awesome world of Azeroth. But we all get older, right? We move on, and those certain games or experiences don't age well or lack that good feeling we once had playing it. If we do enjoy that game later, as the years go by, it's hard to say if it's an effect of rose-tinted goggles or if the game itself is actually still fun and earnest. I for one played Warcraft 1 and 2 just a few weeks ago, albeit for under an hour or so. While Warcraft 1 had infuriating controls, Warcraft 2, however, felt just as awesome as it did when I was a kid. People who played games like Warcraft 2 each have their own reasons as to why it was such a success. For me, I think the secret of this game was its accessibility and reliability. The campaign eased the player into learning how to manage their building tiers and upgrades and didn't overwhelm you. How you were supposed to use certain units wasn't made to feel overly complicated. And man, did this game have a great story to follow. By reliability, I'm referring to how balanced the game was. Never, in my experience at least, did I see a dominant strategy of massing just one unit type and rushing certain productions. Warcraft 2 felt pretty well balanced. Or you simply may not have played Warcraft 1 and 2. Well then, guess what? What have I told you? There is a game currently on Steam right now that is a true return to the golden age of RTS games like Warcraft 2. It's called Loria, and it's awesome for a lot of reasons. I hope you'll stick around as I go through why Loria is a true return to the golden age of RTS. The golden age of RTS spanned from roughly the late 90s to around 2010, though that time span is debatable, obviously. However, let's leave the RTS gaming history for another video. Now, let's fast forward a few more years, and it's 2017. I hear about a game that looks like Warcraft 1 in the works, circulating on YouTube channels like WTII or WT2, however you pronounce that. I managed to get a hold of the demo, play the test mission, and I was obsessed. I followed production of the game quite closely throughout the next couple of years. At one point, I even volunteered to do voice work, to do units and such for that Loria guy. That later was done by Alexi Ryan, a very talented voice actor trained by some of the industry's best, who did most of the male voices in Loria. However, at the last minute, that Loria guy did ask me to do a character in the campaign and voice the trailer for the Chaos faction, so I'm pretty stoked I got a chance to do that. But enough about that. Let's actually talk about the game itself. When reviewing this game, I'm assessing to see if it satisfies two criteria in mind. Does the game play like something akin to Warcraft 2? And also, does the game meet the standards of modern indie games? When the game first started up, it was very reminiscent of Warcraft 1. But as time went by, it seems to shift a little bit in the art to more of a blend of Total Annihilation and Warcraft 2 type of sprites. I personally like both artistic iterations. In both iterations, while the sprites and design were reminiscent of that era, the game didn't feel as clunky and slow as, say, Warcraft 1, which I really did appreciate. This game does something that I was honestly a bit worried about. Would it be a good game for a modern audience? Loria does a great job at bringing the old stuff and merging it with modern RTS mechanics. This includes features like the idle villager button, damage and armor types, while keeping an emphasis on micromanagement, something I've noticed personally between older RTSs and modern ones. In my opinion, RTS games like any other game need that juicy audiovisual feedback that makes certain accomplishments in the game much more satisfying. When certain units die in Loria, they make gruesome death cries, and some units collapse in dramatic ways. The sound of a mixture of weapon types clashing against units and buildings in battle can foster a great sensory experience and completely absorb you. Loria has two game modes, Skirmish against the computer and the campaigns. I myself have only just played through the order side of the campaign so far, and it's really cool. The story takes some twists and turns, and I legitimately didn't expect that. It's kept me curious as to how it all plays out. I think my favorite character so far is the character of Dolt, as he's this hyperbolic representation of the classical RTS hero. It makes him a great character to follow throughout the campaigns. With this in mind, it leads me to my next point. This game doesn't take itself too seriously. In Warcraft 2, for example, we had the inclusion of units saying funny lines if you clicked on them enough times and little Easter eggs. Same goes for Loria. The units say funny lines when you click on them enough times, and you can walk in on a bunch of peasants holding what seems to be an underground meeting discussing a rebellion.
Out of my way. This system's pretty unfair. We should rebel.
That was funny. The music in Loria is very fitting and honestly does remind me of soundtracks from other medieval fantasy RTS games. While it's not Jeremy Soule doing Total Annihilation type of soundtrack, it's still enjoyable to listen to and makes me super focused on what's happening on the screen and often gets stuck in my head, only compounding my desire to race home from work and hop on. The way that Loria plays out as an RTS is very satisfying. At certain times I can say that this game can be hard, but it's only hard if you don't assess the situation thoroughly and study what your units could do to achieve that goal. Have a tower to destroy? Bring a ballista, but remember to guard it. But with what units? Maybe some archers to defend them against some of the ranged units that come by, or maybe some knights for melee. Oh wait, don't forget the cleric that can heal and buff your units. And bam, you have a squad ready for combat. The game allows you, the commander, to create your own strategy for a given situation, and if it doesn't work, if you're wise enough with resources and defense, you can make a comeback. A few times I made the mistake of just massing one unit type and hoping for the best, and it really didn't work. I often lost my entire army in a matter of seconds, precious seconds. This is a good thing though. You can't just amass nothing but flying units and storm the base. You actually have to micromanage and pay attention. I guess that's why I'm so enraptured by this game. It's challenging. It doesn't really hold your hand. I mean, the first mission in the campaign, it's a prison break, which is a dungeon level. The dungeon levels in Warcraft 1 were notoriously difficult, and the ones in Loria are no different. To me, this game has been made to cater for the RTS veteran of games like Warcraft 2, you know, like me. But I honestly think if you haven't played that kind of game before, you could still enjoy this and experience what that game was like. You could experience a genre-defining game, and to me, that's a pretty cool achievement. I also think it's something that this industry needs. You know, people making games that remind us not just of our childhood, but it reminds us of the games that we played that meant something. Games that created vivid experiences and truly tested our minds. I've been playing Loria at every chance I can get because it reminds me of the RTS games that kept me playing for hours on end until I perfected a good strategy that defeated my opponents. If you're a fan of RTS, this game is a must play. So here we go. What do I rate this game? I give it 4.5 muffins out of 5. Everything mechanically, philosophically, and aesthetically about this game is perfect and satisfies the criteria I set of does it feel like Warcraft 2, and also if it's just all round a good indie game. However, of course, there are some issues with visual bugs. Nothing game breaking. If I could give this game 4 3/4 of a muffin because I think the bugs are so minor, I mean I would, considering how this game was essentially developed by just one guy. I don't think I can take a whole point off just because of bugs. I mean, some bugs in games are just inevitable. It's about the severity of the bugs that matter. As long as the game runs and I'm having fun, it's actually kind of funny to see maybe a footman run on the spot or whatever. Maybe he's just, you know, squeezing in some exercise during downtime. Who knows? So that's the verdict. If you're interested, Loria is currently on Steam. This game is a true return to the golden age of RTS. If you want to take a trip down memory lane to RTS games in the 90s, this is your ticket, my friend. And as always, everyone, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that lovely stuff down below. If you're new here to my channel, be sure to check out my other videos like my comparison of the Diablo games in the wake of BlizzCon 2018. If you're feeling awesome and want to support the growth of this channel, go chuck in a buck over on my Patreon. Links in the description below. Be sure to share this video with your mates and I'll catch you later.